Hi, this is a short video on how we can frame the business case to justify us working together to create a sustainable world. Let's start by looking at the three justifications that we use to do anything, whether in our personal lives or in the business world. The first reason is the more ethically based one: do the right thing. Do the right thing for the important stakeholders that are going to be impacted by our decision. And we may also support that with capturing opportunities and mitigating risks. So those are the big three justifications that we would use. In many business schools, the implication is that there is a bit of a divide, a sort of either or relationship among these justifications, so that you might have doing the right thing as a somewhat marginalized course on ethics in the business school, and then you have the other courses which help companies position themselves to be able to capture opportunities, save money, make money, and avoid risks that may impact their ability to do that. So what we have is sort of an either-or relationship that unfortunately dominates the mindset of many folks in business. On the other hand, what we're finding is that in the 21st century, doing the right thing includes doing the right thing for all stakeholders, stakeholders that include society as well as the environment. And when the company does that, it enhances its reputation and drives innovation inside the company that allows it to capture new opportunities and mitigate new risks that otherwise they could be subjected to. So the carrots and the sticks change a little bit in the 21st century from what they were in previous years. And what we have is a relationship here that frames the business case for sustainability. It's not an either or kind of thing, it's an if then kind of relationship. And that's the way in which we're going to frame the business case for anything, including the business case for us helping to create a more sustainable world, a more sustainable global society. So what does doing the right thing look like in terms of the planet? The interdependencies that we are showing in this figure of the relationship between the environment, society, and business, and the nested interdependencies, need to be in good shape. The flows between those three nests need to be healthy and supportive. This is one way of depicting what those flows might look like, acknowledging that this is a single planet. There's no other planet so far that we are going to be able to live on. So from a one planet perspective, we need to be careful about what we do to the nest, the natural capital, and the ecosystem services that are provided by it, and make sure that we are sharing those resources in an equitable way, and that the flows that are going on in between those nests are including flows that provide value to nature as well as to society and to business. And we need to be careful that we produce and consume better, and that we maintain the integrity of the ecosystem on which we are dependent, especially the food, water, and energy that we are dependent on, and the biodiversity that's in the background that supports all of the ecosystem services that we are taking for granted. So let's suppose we decided to do this. What would the goals be that we would set for ourselves to allow all of these relationships to be healthy? And fortunately, we have the benefit now of goals which have been articulated through an incredible consensus process by the United Nations that define what a sustainable planet would look like, and especially a sustainable, healthy global society. And that's called the Sustainable Development Goals. So the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are a wonderful definition of what doing the right thing would look like on a global scale. First of all, we would make sure that the environment was in good shape. So these 6 goals have to do with that: how we're treating our water, energy, climate, responsible consumption and the use of our materials, fish and life below water, and life on land, including agriculture. And then we have socioeconomic goals. Some of them very challenging: the no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, and so on, but absolutely necessary if we're going to have a sustainable global society on a finite planet. So this is a really crisp, wonderful definition of what doing the right thing looks like on planet Earth. So the question is, if we were to pull this off, and these goals are for 2030, there are 169 indicators associated with them. Let's suppose we said, okay, we're going to do this. Would this be good for the economy, or would it sewer the global economy? Fortunately, a number of economists have rolled up their sleeves and they've done the math. And it turns out this could be a good thing. So if we take a look at the implementation of those goals, doing the right thing, and the opportunities that that could lead to from an economic point of view, it would look like this: $12 trillion added to the global GDP if we were able to pull off those 17 goals by 2030. And what you see here are bar charts representing 12 different sectors, color-coded by food, cities, energy, and health, which show that there is enormous opportunity here. In fact, they drill down into what they call 60 hotspots underneath these, which show where the action is. So if you're thinking of starting up a business, this is a pretty good place to take a look at where the sectors are, where it looks like most of this economic action is going to take place. And the nice thing is, the byproduct of this is some very good jobs, 380 million jobs. So what we're talking about is the fact that this does not smell like a problem from a global economy perspective. That is to say that the achievement of those 17 do the right thing SDGs is a good thing from a global economic perspective. So just to summarize, this report called Better Business, Better World by the Business and Sustainable Development Commission shows that we could get 12 trillion, that's $12 million added to the global economy, that's in 60 different sectors, that amounts to 10% of the forecasted global GDP by 2030. A lot of that's happening in developing countries, and it creates new jobs. And it turns out that this $12 trillion is actually very conservative. It doesn't take into consideration the increased productivity and innovation of the workforce. It's actually 2 to 3 times that. And in fact, just to reinforce that, there's been another study done that shows if we just focused on the climate change issue and attempted to get that under control by 2030, we have $26 trillion of benefits from being able to take that on. And we've got some things that are laid out as to how to do that. So there's more and more evidence that stepping up to some of these huge environmental and social issues leads to significant contributions to the global GDP, which is usually the measurement that is used as to whether or not these things would be good things or bad things for the business community. So in terms of the justification of capturing new opportunities, if we were to have a sustainable global world, it looks pretty positive. Doing the right thing generates these new opportunities. And what about on the risk side? Let's take a look at that. So some of you may have seen this before. This is the Global Risks Report that comes out by the World Economic Forum annually. This is the 2018 version. This is the upper right-hand quadrant of their 2x2 matrix that shows the risks that are on the horizon within the next 10 years that could do some damage to companies, the likelihood of them happening within the next 10 years being high in this quadrant, and the impact of them happening that's also high. So what you see is that some of the things that need to be addressed fit into those nested interdependencies categories, because we're talking about environmental, green, social, red, and economic issues that are on the horizon and need to be mitigated before damage to global economies. So we're talking about here the ability for us to not only meet those SDG goals, but also taking bold steps, for example, on climate action to avoid the kinds of risks that you saw in the previous chart. And the risks are pretty significant. As you can see, if we don't take action on climate, there are significant damages that could be done if we're not smart about how we react to these situations. So what's not to like? We know what to do the right thing. We can capture some significant new opportunities, $12 trillion being added to the global GDP, and mitigate some of these risks that are starting to rear their ugly heads on the horizon that could do damage to companies. So when we frame the business case for stepping up to these things, and taking proactive measures on these things to avoid these risks and capture those opportunities, this is a good deal. So that's the way the business case at a global level looks, and it's the framework that we would use at a company level or even a project level as well. So the business case for a sustainable world is pretty darn good.